Hey, good evening, everybody. Subby here at the home office for this evening. So hopefully everybody is doing fantastic. And of course, doning the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got a game tonight. I'll make sure that we are done with the winter forecast before the kickoff of Kansas City Chiefs. So Laura, the weather lady, Lucky, Alan. Hi, Alice. Appreciate you guys all jumping on here tonight. Looked like Alan had the watch party with Dave and Tara, and we got you on the big screen. That's awesome, and I do appreciate all the support. We got lots to go over tonight. I'm very excited. Of course, from October all the way till right around this time. The first week of December is always one of my favorite times of year because that is when the new LRC sets up. What I'm going to do, kind of my game plan tonight, we have a lot of information to pass along to you guys. We're going to kind of give a little bit of an explanation of the LRC in case we have some new viewers out there who might not be familiar with the LRC. We'll give some information on that. I will tell you guys about what the pattern has been showing since the beginning, the first week of October. And then we're going to micro scale that down to what we can expect right here in West Central Missouri. So let's just go ahead and get started again. We are going to get this thing done before kickoff of the Kansas City Chiefs game tonight. Very important game for them. It's a must win for both teams. So hopefully we can get a Kansas City Chiefs victory tonight after the LRC Winter Forecast. So I am using some of Weather 2020 and the LRC visuals tonight. And then, of course, I will have my own input, and then we'll finish it up with kind of a summary of what we can expect here in West Central Missouri. So the LRC. What the heck is the LRC? The LRC is the Lezak recurring cycle. Basically, it was founded by a TV meteorologist, Gary Lezak, a former KSHB meteorologist in Kansas City. He found this back in the 80s. As you can see right here, he has this framed up in his home in Golden, Colorado right now. Every winter follows a unique atmospheric pattern. It's illustrated here from his picture that he has hanging on the wall from the winter of 1987, 1988. And this year's pattern began developing in early October. Normally it starts up around October 6th, sometimes October 5th. But once that pattern is established, it will repeat itself for 10 or 11 months. Now, obviously, if we know what that pattern is and it repeats itself, we have incredible long-range projections. So this repeating oscillating cycle becomes the blueprint of the atmosphere. And when you understand the cycling pattern, you can plan accordingly with confidence long range out. If you have a birthday, a wedding, if you're going on a trip, it's all, I mean, you can go all the way out to next August, September, and I cannot stress the importance of how accurate this has been in the ag field, in agriculture. We'll touch on that here in just a little bit as well. Now, most forecasters use the corners of in order to figure out the puzzle of atmospheric science and forecasting. Okay, now we are going to touch on some of these. You guys have probably heard me talk about La Nina, El Nino, AO, which is the Arctic oscillation. We're going to touch on a couple of these, the big ones. And I'm going to try to put it very easy for you to understand. So, most forecasters, they rely only on the corner pieces that you're seeing here on the screen. The NAO, that's the North American Oscillation, AAO, El Nino, La Nina. Um, that's all that they are using. They're missing the centerpiece of the entire puzzle, and that's the LRC, as you can see right there in your picture. If you knew the rhythm of the pattern months in advance, how would you plan differently? When you know when and where storm systems, cold spells, the dry windows, if you're in the ag field and major events will occur, surprises turn into strategy. Now, and again, I have mentioned the puzzle of the atmosphere when we talk about the LRC, and I use this description for my kids that I go to different schools. In 2025, I was fortunate enough to go to 19 area schools to teach them a little bit about the weather and atmospheric science. We do it from kindergarten all the way up into college level, and I really enjoy that. But the easiest way that I have to describe is the jet stream. That is our river of air. It is at 18,000 feet above our heads, or at the 500 millibar level, and it is a river, just like a typical river you would see heading down to the lake. Now, if you can think of yourself being next to a river and you take a piece of driftwood and throw it out into the river, now, are you going to know where that piece of driftwood is going to go? You have a pretty good idea, don't you, by following the current. And if it comes around a bend, you know that storm system is going to go up and around the bend and continue on downstream. Exactly what we do as forecasters. We take a look at that river of air at 18,000 feet, and instead of a piece of driftwood, we're looking at a storm system. So if we know where that river of air is going, we know where the storm system is likely going to go. And that is the basis of the LRC. Now, here's the reality of long range forecasting. And again, most forecasters are trying to solve a 1,000-piece puzzle by only looking at those corner pieces: El Nino, La Nina, Arctic oscillation. They avoid long range forecasting altogether because they believe there's just too much chaos in the atmosphere. But if you look at the graphic, those are the corners and edges. Are they important? Absolutely. Now, is it complete? Not even close. What's missing is that centerpiece of the entire atmospheric jigsaw, and that's the LRC. Let's talk about the big piece number two. We have the LRC. Let's talk about the El Nino and La Nina. And I'm going to try to explain this as simply as I can. It's an easy concept. You just have to kind of bypass all of the mumbo jumbo, and you'll be able to understand it really well. So, sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean, they have just started to warm here in December. Now, in order for it to be called an El Nino or a La Nina, it requires 5 consecutive 3-month averages of at least a half a degree Celsius positive or a half a degree Celsius negative. So what we are seeing this year is a enso neutral condition, meaning that it's likely not going to be a La Nina or El Nino this year. Now, let me put this into a graphic that might explain that just a little bit better. Now, an El Nino means that out here in the Pacific, we have just a half a degree warmer on average out there at the sea surface. Now, what that does is that brings warm, moist air into the southern part of the United States, and it keeps most of the cold air bottled up and storm systems up here in Canada. In a La Nina, you will have colder sea surface temperatures out in the Pacific by half a degree Celsius. And what that means is that the warmer air is going to come across Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and it's going to take a nosedive right down over the Rockies. Now, what that means is that allows that cold air to be funneled down through Canada and into the Midwest. So, obviously, La Nina years, we can expect to have a little bit more active winter, colder winter, and just the opposite during El Nino years. So now let's go back to what we had just been talking about. So what it means we're going to be neutral, it means we will not likely have any classic La Nina or El Nino impacts. It can kind of go either way. Now, I know I've seen a lot of videos and forecasts back in October and even as early as September, where a lot of forecasters were calling this to be a very, very strong La Nina winter, meaning, tons of snowfall, record-breaking temperatures, on the bottom side, not warm temperatures, but record-breaking cold temperatures. And it was really hyped up. But what we're seeing is going to be mainly a neutral winter. Now, here's pieces 3 and 4. This is the Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation. You guys had heard me talk about the Arctic oscillation many times. And it's something that I look at daily when I get to the forecast center at Baumgard Weather Center each and every morning. And again, don't get confused or frustrated by the numbers and the graphs. All you have to do is just remember that the Arctic oscillation, if it dips negative, that just means up at the North Pole that cold air is not tightly wound up at the North Pole. It's very loose, meaning that a storm system can very easily drag that cold air down into the central part of the United States and possibly bring some Arctic temperatures and storm systems right down through the middle of in the heart of the United States. Now, when the Arctic oscillation is positive or neutral, what that means is that all that cold air up at the North Pole and in the Arctic is very, very tightly wound up there in the North Pole. And it's very, very hard for the jet stream or any storm system to yank on some of that cold air and send it south into the middle part of the United States. So when these indexes deep really negative or really positive, that's what we really focus on, because if the index say dips -3 or -4 negative, there's a lot better chance that Arctic air is going to blast its way to the south. And this energizes the jet streams, and it may increase the strength of all the storm systems. Okay, now when these indexes rise really high in the positive category, now 3 or 4 degrees, Arctic air is likely going to be held right at the Arctic and up at the North Pole, and storm systems end up weaker. And that actually happened in the first cycle of this year's LRC, which started on October 6th. Now, as the winter forecast was being issued, this was on Friday, the AO, which is the Arctic oscillation, and the NAO, which is the North Atlantic oscillation, they were showing some potential for a dip deeper into negative territory. And of course, this is going to be part of the LRC, and one of the big reasons why I really think that we will see a big change at the middle of the month. And of course, that's coming up this coming weekend. We have been talking about this now for the last 2 to 3 weeks, that the middle of December, we're going to start to get active again. And this is when I really thought I had a handle on the LRC, and I conversed with Gary Lezak. We talked to each other via email constantly, and he said, "Subby, you hit the nail on the head." And I had a firm grasp on this a couple 3 weeks ago, so I'm pretty confident that as we go into next weekend, we're going to feel winter. So again, when the AO dive negative, the area has a much easier path to head down south into the middle part of the United States. Now, when it gets strongly positive, it means all that air, that cold Arctic air, gets bottled up to the north. So the key point is this: the AO and the NAO shape the outcome, but they don't create it. The LRC sets the storm track and the repeating pattern. AO and NAO will help determine how intense each version will be. So why does the LRC dominate long-range forecast? So the LRC describes the order in which many think it's just chaos in the river of air above us. The sweet spot of accuracy of the LRC is from January through September. So as the LRC becomes established in the fall months in October and November, the accuracy improves as we go into the first part of the year. So right around October 6th each year, the LRC pattern sets up, and then we figure out what the length of that cycle is. And then, of course, once we get into January, we've already had a cycle. We kind of know what's going to be going on. And then the LRC uses AI, artificial intelligence, to help in the process of seeing any small differences between cycle 1 and cycle 2. And then it combines that information, and then it becomes nearly 92% accurate for all the severe storm setups for March, April, May, and into June. Just last year, I had all of my dates for the entire year of severe weather events, and it missed one. And that, I mean, we're talking right at 91, 92% accuracy. Just incredible. Now, the pattern's going to continue, same amount of days in between the cycle, all the way through the summer and into the fall. Now, finding this year's cycle. This is really interesting. So, if you guys been down to Baumgard Weather Center and go into my office, you guys will see all of these 500 millibar charts all up on my wall. That's 18,000 feet above our head. That's the jet stream. And since October 6th, and even prior to October 6th, I've been watching the patterns and seeing if I could catch when the patterns are repeating, and trying to figure out the LRC. Here you're looking October 14, 2025 on the left-hand side of the screen. This storm formed early in the LRC as it was setting up. Okay, now the storm system on the right happened November 17th, still in cycle 1. And it formed as part of a series of storms on November 17th. Now, these two storms formed in two different parts of this year's LRC in cycle 1. This is an exhibit of phase 2 of cycle 1, and it is one of the early predictions that we are going to see repeat itself. And of course, one of those is going to be likely toward the middle to the end of December. So expect this part of the cycle of the pattern to come through twice in each cycle in the next year ahead. So what we have two primary jet stream phases. Okay. So we have phase number one. This dominant phase mirrors late November into early December pattern that produced major snowstorms. It frequently intensifies storm systems and it can tap Arctic air. Now, I put on there, it can tap into Arctic air if the AO, the Arctic oscillation, is lightly wound up there and it's in the negative values. And this can actually draw that cold air in. That's the reason why the AO and NAO is important. It helps to see how intense these storm systems are going to be, but we're not going to know that until we know what the AO, the Arctic oscillation, is going to do. Now, it frequently intensifies storm systems and may tap into some of that colder Arctic air. And this part of the pattern has lasted 2 to 3 weeks at a time and is likely to help create the conditions for Arctic blast here in west central Missouri this winter. Now, if you take a look at phase 2, that's on the right side. Now, this secondary phase features storm systems diving down into west coast in California before turning east and then kind of pushing straight up to the northeast. Now, this phase has been cycling at intervals of about 10 days and will be responsible for several impactful storms, likely out west and in the northeast. So phase one of the 2025-26 winter season, storm systems intensify over the Central Plains and the Great Lakes. Okay, so if you notice where west central Missouri is, we are kind of right in that battle zone between the air masses. In phase two, now we see those storm systems come down into California and then shoot straight up into Canada, creates another low pressure system in the northeast, giving them strong storms in California, leaving us in the dry area. Now, this is what I am concerned about as we go into spring and summer on the ag side. Now, when we talked about that amplification, now this phase of the jet stream is likely to amplify once or twice. And when it does, when it can actually pull that Arctic air and the AO is negative and it pulls that Arctic air down into the middle part of the country, it can produce a major ice storm setup. Now, this was primarily up into the far northern plains the last couple years. Now the setup is right here in the heartland, right here in west central Missouri. So this is where the pattern becomes really, really important to understand. We've talked about phase one and we talked about phase two of each cycle. But every year there are one or two moments when the atmosphere amplifies. This happens when the AO dips negative. It allows that Arctic air to surge south. And when that aligns with phase two of the pattern, that entire setup is going to intensify. Now, the storm systems dive down the west coast. They hit the Gulf of Mexico or the southern plains, and then they shoot straight northward, colliding with that Arctic air, and that clash creates one of the most high impact winter hazards that we get here in the Midwest and west central Missouri. And that's a major ice storm corridor right through the western part of Missouri. So we expect this year's LRC to produce 2, maybe 3 of these amplified windows here in West Central Missouri. Let's just talk just for a moment about drought and the ag forecast. So when I was talking about those dry periods, that wreaks havoc on the agricultural community, planting delays, early season stress, reduced soil recharge. The wet periods is going to cause delays out in the field, ponding, elevated disease. And then, of course, we get to the temperature extremes, freeze risk during key emergent phases, heat stress during pollination. So in this year, phase 1 of each cycle, this is colder, wetter, maybe snow, rain, possible Arctic blast. The key dates, December 20th through January 4th, January 26th through February 10th, February 21st through March 18th, March 30th through April 14th, April 25th through May 20th, June 1st through June 16th. Okay, this is going to be the wet periods in the ag industry. For phase 2, that's a warmer, drier stretch. Major winter storm possibly in January or February. We'll get into that here in just a moment. The key date for us here in West Central Missouri. But we also have to worry about drought. These are going to be the key dates this spring and into summer. We'll probably be looking at April 15th through 24th, May 21st through May 31st, and June 17th through June 26th. Those are going to be the heat waves, the drier months or the drier days in which we're likely not going to get any kind of rainfall. So definitely key dates if you're in the ag field, if you're a farmer, if you sell feed, if you sell fertilizer, these are going to definitely be dates that you'll want to remember. Now, let's take a look at the first 60 days of this year's LRC, October 5th through December 4th. Okay, this is going to be the first 60 days. Now, you will notice that most of West Central Missouri, and we're talking Cass, Bay, Johnson, parts of Henry, we're in that between 100, right at 100% of average based on 30 years. Now, the Pettis County, parts of Henry County, St. Clair, Vernon, more in the 75 to 85 percentile right here in West Central Missouri. Temperatures the first 60 days of this year's LRC, October 5th through December 4th, has shown much above average temperature-wise based on 30 years. We're talking 2 to 6 degrees above average so far for the first 60 days of this year's LRC. Now, the LRC percentage of average precipitation that it is focusing on from this January through June. Again, very important, especially if you're in the ag industry. We are looking, most of West Central Missouri is poised to be between 80 to 90% of the percent of average over the last 30 years of precipitation. Matter of fact, we have some of West Central Missouri, and a big chunk of the Corn Belt is 90 to 110% of average rainfall is expected from January through June. That's very, very good news. This is about 20% higher than what was forecasted and actually happened last year. Now, here in the Corn Belt, the percent of average rainfall forecast January through June. And again, parts of West Central Missouri, 80 to 90%. A big chunk of West Central Missouri, 90 to 100%. So this is all fantastic news for the ag industry. The precipitation by county here in West Central Missouri that is expected. We've got Johnson, Cass, Bates, Henry, Benton, and St. Clair County sitting at about 91% of average. Vernon County down in Nevada, they're going to be looking at anywhere between 92 to 95% of average. And then Pettis County, unfortunately, you're kind of the odd man out up there. You guys are still in that 80 to 85% of average. And again, this is based on a 30-year average for your county. So again, very, very good news. Now let's get to the nitty gritty, guys. Let's talk about snowfall forecast for our counties here in West Central Missouri. And listen, I do appreciate everybody on. And again, we got a chat. You guys want to throw some questions out there? Be happy to answer any questions you might have. If you're watching this, please, please, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. This actually helps with the algorithm to get this video out to more and more people right here in West Central Missouri. So make sure, take a second, doesn't cost anything, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the high-end total. Now what this snowfall map is going to show is if our systems stay amplified like the LRC is projecting. Now, for those 3, maybe 4 systems that come down from the Arctic, if that's to happen, we will likely be running anywhere between 2 to 4 inches above average in snowfall for the year. So, and again, this is if each system is amplified and the AO dip negative and it brings this cold air down here to us. However, it does not take in consideration what if we're in that battleground and we get an ice storm, we get a 1/4 inch of rainfall and it's ice. It does not take that in consideration. I am expecting 1 to 2 major ice storms this year that could affect us here in West Central Missouri. So because that moisture is not going to be snow, it's likely going to be in the form of freezing rain, sleet, graupel, something other than snow. The more realistic snowfall totals is likely going to be right around the 11 to 13 inch area for West Central Missouri. Now, our average snowfall with all of our counties combined, all 8 counties here in West Central Missouri, you are going to be looking at right around 10.5 inches of snowfall on average based on 30 years here in West Central Missouri. So again, it's looking like a little bit above average snowfall for West Central Missouri. So I see somebody talk about St. Charles County. St. Charles County is looking, let's see here, they are right in the 13 to 15 inch, which is considerably higher than average by almost 2.5 inches. So you guys already got one nice snowstorm. That snowstorm is going to be cycling back through that you guys received last week in St. Charles County. So here's the summary, guys. So preliminary cycle length, this is from my data, and it has been confirmed from Gary Lezak, 62 days. This cycle is the longest since I have been following very religiously the last 15 years, and the third longest in the last 25 years. The cycle started October 6th, and I am expecting today was the last day of the first cycle of the LRC. One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do the LRC Winter Forecast today. The key date to remember, and I'll leave this up here just for a couple minutes so you guys might be able to jot it down. If you don't get to it, go back. You can pause it in the video. Write these dates down. December 19th through 21st, and that's what's coming up next week. Not this coming week, but the following week. I think we are going to start to feel that effect this weekend that will lead into a possible significant Arctic blast and possibly even some snowfall here in west central Missouri. December 27th through the 30th. That's going to take us to New Year's. And right this coming weekend, guys, that's when we're going to get into that, that very active phase where we get several storm systems. That's coming back around, I think, starting this weekend all the way through the New Year's. January 10th through the 12th, January 23rd through February 1st. That has one of the potentials to be an ice storm. February 19th through the 27th, also potential to be an ice event. March 13th through 26th and April 4th through 8th. This could very likely be the beginning, those last 2 dates, of severe storm season here in west central Missouri. We could have an early start in March, right around the 13th through the 26th, of severe weather. April 4th through the 8th, also another possible severe setup. Just above average snowfall with all of our 8 counties together, 13.5 inches projected, almost 3 inches higher than average here in west central Missouri. 1 to 2 possible significant ice events in phase 2 of the cycles. Now, with a 62-day cycle length, guys, we're only gonna, and again, we're only gonna get through a cycle and a half, and winter's done. It's incredible. And again, this is the longest cycle since I have been focused on the LRC that I have seen. 62 days. In comparison, last year I thought was long at 41 days. This year, 62 days. Average temperature will be a little bit higher than average, and 2 to 3 Arctic infiltrations in cycle in phase 1 of each cycle. So 2 to 3 Arctic blasts expected as we go through cycle 2 and part of cycle 3 for about the next 90 days here in west central Missouri. So again, guys, I'm not going to see. What's concerning to me really are going to be the dry stretches that could last 2 weeks, maybe 18 days. That's what's concerning to me as we go into spring and summer, into the planting season, the emergence season on the ag side. We didn't have that last year. We didn't have that until we hit August last year. And that's when we dried up. And unfortunately, a lot of the corn, a lot of the beans, they were in that critical stage to be able to flourish and they needed that rainwater, and they didn't get it. And so a lot of the crops suffered, even though they looked amazing leading up to August. They really took a hit through the month of August and into September during harvest. So if you guys take a look at these key dates, December 19th through 21st, December 27th through the 30th, two big chances for us to have snow on the ground for the holidays. So right now, having a white Christmas is right now at best 25%. But I'm going to tell you that's the highest this far out away from Christmas that I've ever projected. So, and it's likely going to go up as we get a little bit closer. And I know for sure what this pattern is going to do starting this weekend, maybe Saturday night into Sunday. I've seen a lot of forecast guys from Kansas City, Springfield channels. I got on and snooped a lot of forecasts, and they're calling for possibly, record temperatures coming up for from the 20th through the 23rd, possibly record temperatures. Just last night, a Kansas City weather station that had projected much warmer temperatures, record-breaking temperatures, had just said those warmer temperatures went out the window and that we could be looking at a cold and stormy middle of the month. So I'm telling you, the LRC is there. It is set up, and it's only going to improve as we continue to see how these cycles develop each and every phase of the cycle. We already have a strong understanding of the pattern structure. There's still a few uncertainties, including the exact final cycle length. Right now, 62 looks like it is absolutely perfect. However, we're not going to know that for sure until we finish cycle number 2. So that will sharpen as we move deeper into winter, and as that locks in, the timing of the wet and dry windows, storm system, temperature swings, all that will become even more precise with my forecast. If anybody would like to have any of that data, that the graphs that I was showing, the map, the snowfall map, that is what's called the Weather 2020 dashboard. You can go to that website that is in the black box, weather2020.com/subby-weather-talk. And you can, and I'm telling you, if you're in the ag industry, I have got 6 farming operations that actually use this, and they could not believe how much it helped in their planning process in 2025 in the spring and the summer. And if that is something you guys are wanting to get that information for yourself, you can go to that website, and that will link you to save you hundreds on that software. If you want a more economical version, the Global Predictor Pro, you can download it on Apple, Android, on your computer, and you can go anywhere around the world and get a 6-month forecast. This thing is updated every Saturday, and you can find out if the temperatures are going to be well above average, well below average. Are we expecting a big snowfall? Are we expecting a lot of rain? When are the dry weeks? When are the wet weeks? And you can go out 6 months. And this is such a valuable tool, especially if you're an outdoor planner or if you have something coming up. It's very, very economical. It's like $49 for the entire year. And if you use the code SUBBY10, all in capital letters, then that's going to save you even more money if you buy it by the year at $49. So use that code, save some money. And I'm telling you, we're going to be using the LRC. It just keeps getting better each and every year. We're going to be using this. Our grandkids are going to be using this for years to come. This is definitely something that is catching on globally. And this doesn't just work for Missouri. It doesn't just work for North America. This is global. Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. The LRC is the biggest piece of the puzzle. It is just absolutely fascinating. So, one thing I want to do, I'm going to backpedal here. I am going to backpedal, and I'm going to bring back up those dates again, guys. So, again, December 19th through the 21st, December 27th through the 30th, January 10th through the 12th, 23rd through February 1st, February 19th through the 27th. And then we're going to be watching for severe weather returning back into the Midwest, March 13th through the 26th, April 4th through the 8th. Now, sometime here in February, I am going to be doing another live special on the severe storm setups for our spring. Are we going to have an active severe storm season? Are we going to have a dormant severe weather season? We will do that likely in February, in the middle of February. And remember, February 1st, we start our fantastic fundraiser. We have tons of donations that come into Subby's Weather Talk. We do a huge raffle for anything you want to donate, for all the software, the hardware, for all of the data loggers, for everything. Whether it's $1, 50 cents, $2, $5, it doesn't make any difference. If you donate, you will be entered into that. If going to enter you into that drawing that we're going to hold right around March 1st, and we do it live. And last year, I think we had, over 70 really nice donated prizes. So I think everybody had about a 1 in 4 chance of winning a prize. So that's incredible odds. I wish the Missouri lottery was that good. But we'll be doing that in February. I'll have the severe weather forecast as we go into springtime. And then I will do an ag special, which is going to be something new this year. That, if you're a farmer, a rancher, your family has farmers in the family, definitely want to watch. We're going to take a look a little bit at transpiration rates, humidity, growing days, soil temperature, soil water moisture for the springtime, when our wet weeks are, dry weeks are, to help you plan your entire spring out based on the LRC. So that's what we're going to be doing here over the next few months. And of course, we are working together with a group of 5 storm chaser teams. We had come up and did a MidwestMesoProject.com. We're going to be utilizing a ton of live cams that you're going to be able to go on there and see all the live cams around West Central Missouri, Southwest Missouri. We are going to be putting probes out ahead of thunderstorms and logging data for the National Weather Service for research. We have big plans for this spring. I cannot wait. A big shout out to 417 Chasers down in Springfield. They have been absolutely fantastic. They're kind of in charge of getting these probes made to get it to the team. And Matt, he's done such a great job He made a couple of these already. He's tried them out. We're going to be able to have the cameras on the probes and the data being available for you to watch live as these storm chasers set these probes out in front of these thunderstorms this spring. So we've got lots of work to do. I'm excited about the spring, but first we have to get through the winter. And I do think that we're going to have some of these dry spells that's not going to seem too bad. And then these storm systems, I really think is going to be, they're going to be throwing a big punch this season, guys. So we definitely, one thing I do not want to see is ice. And again, that's one of the most devastating type of storms we can get here in West Central Missouri. And unfortunately, it's looking like one or two possible ice events that we could get here. I really was not seeing much last year as far as ice storms, and we really didn't. We had a couple instances of some freezing rain, slick roads, but we didn't have that major ice event. And unfortunately, I'm seeing one or two of them this season. So a little bit above average snowfall, 13 and a half inches projected here on average in West Central Missouri, which is a couple inches above average. Take a look here. MH talking about no severe weather this spring. Now, Corey, one thing that you have the Global Predictor Pro. Now, let me tell you something that Weather 2020 is working on with the Predictor Pro. It's in trial stages right now. So even though it's not showing any snow for December, January, it's only right now only putting in significant snow accumulation 6 inches or better right now. So it's going to continue to be updated through the month. And I think probably here in about the next 2 weeks, you will start to see those dates start to fill in with some snow. The best thing to look at right now is rainfall. Take a look on the Global Predictor, go to rainfall, and take a look at our dates that you see on the screen right now. And if any of those rain dates matches, then I would put a little star on the calendar. That could be either a significant ice event or a significant snow event. So they are, if you look at the dashboard, which is, they utilize the dashboard, all the data for the Global Predictor Pro, but the dashboard uses about 5 different programs to come up with snowfall totals. They use whether you're near mountain range, whether or not it's taking into effect all of the cold Arctic air coming down into the Midwest. There's like 5 different snowfall maps on there. And the Global Predictor is having a hard time deciphering all the different data sets. So they're working on it right now. I actually approached Gary with that exact same question. So take a look at the rainfall, and you'll notice December and January looks very wet. Okay, and they're calling out 23rd through the 27th, lots of potential for precip. Yes, and that's for December. I seen the same thing. The dashboard and the LRC cycle matches perfectly with a possibility of seeing, some kind of major storm system right around the Christmas time. So it's going to get a little better. Remember, this thing sets up in October. It's a 62-day cycle. We had to wait 62 days till today for the cycle to finally begin to repeat itself. So to give you guys an idea of a simple thing that you can do at home is if you have a planner or a calendar. So start taking 62 days. and I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys basically what I do. I'm gonna give away all of my secrets probably, but I want to show you guys something. So basically, what I do is I put down what the weather was for today on a calendar. If you guys think back to a week ago Monday, that's when we got that pretty big storm system to come through, produce some snowfall. Kansas City got 4 or 5 inches. St. Louis got 5-6 inches. We got just a dusting here in Henry County, but several other places got a couple inches of snowfall. So last Monday was the first. Okay. So what I like to do is I will take Google and I will ask Google, what is 62 days from December 1st, 2025? February 1st. Okay. Take a look at the dates that I have to watch out for. January 23rd through February 1st. So if you put the weather down each day on a planner in your office or maybe in the bedroom, and if we have a significant storm or say a big cold front like happened overnight last night, okay, so last night was the 6th. So today is the 7th. So what's 62 days from December 7th, 2025? February 7th. So we didn't get much precipitation, but we got a big Arctic dip in the AO. So maybe around February 7th, we can possibly expect a big cool down, and then then possibly a winter storm coming in February 19th through the 27th. So, that's what I do in a nutshell on how I go about long range forecasting. Now, I do, I have a little bit more advanced maps, and I look at the 500 millibar charts, and I do it from that perspective. But for you at home, it's as simple as that. Have a calendar, put the weather for the day if there's a significant weather event that happened, and then ask Google, plan out 62 days from today and see and mark that on your calendar for a potential repeat of what's going on for the day. That's what's remarkable about the LRC. And again, that's basically what you're getting when you do the global predictor. It's using a calendar and it's going out 62 days past on previous events of the cycle prior. And it gives you a forecast. And that's basically what the LRC does. It's amazing. Go up through this. Thanks for the kind words, Laura. I hope everybody got something out of this tonight. We are approaching the 1 hour mark. I do know that the Chiefs game is going to be coming on here shortly. Kind of going through all of the comments. Hey, you bet, MA. Thank you. And I will leave this up there again. If you want to screenshot it, kind of put those dates on your calendar. And again, this weekend, I think we're going to start to see that change that's going to last all the way through New Year's. I'm not saying it's going to be brutally cold every day, not saying it's going to snow every day, but we're going to have 2 to 3 storm systems that are going to be coming in starting this weekend and then through New Year's. So one of those storm systems could provide a focus for snowfall to give us a white Christmas. A 25% chance right now of a white Christmas. The latest data that I looked at earlier today, that could go up just a smidget as we go toward the end of next week. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free to reach out for me. You can send me a Facebook message. You can also jump over to subbiesweathertalk.com. Please bookmark subbiesweathertalk.com. It is such an invaluable website, and this was made for you guys. You can click on Contact Us, and it will take right to Subby's Weather Talk, and you can ask your questions. If you want to do it not publicly, you can go to I have a question. Hey, Sub, when is it going to snow? And just like that, I just got a notification that somebody had sent me a question on the website. So feel free to use that at any time. I try really hard to answer each and every one of those questions. While you're there, very, very easy. You can click on the tab, go to WeatherWise Radar. Absolutely free. All you guys have to do is click on the link and you have all the latest state-of-the-art radar information, all for free, right at your fingertips, whether you're on the phone or desktop. So definitely take advantage of this. It has all the bells and whistles of a very expensive app that you would have to pay for. All completely free. You have radar, composite radar. You have satellite, if you want to look at satellite. It has all of your models, the GFS, the North American model. It has short-term models. All of this is for free. And when we get in severe weather season, it also has the outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center as well. So this spring, I am thinking about doing an informative radar class here locally in Henry County, in which show you guys how to use radar, what the different radar models that there are, how to be able to understand modeling. And of course, we will talk about the spring forecast and severe weather safety. That will be coming up in March of this year, and I'll make sure to give you guys all the information as soon as I come up with that information. I will share it with you guys. All right, guys. So no other questions. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. We got Chiefs game on here, just a few minutes. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you didn't understand something, I'll be more than happy to explain anything that you guys might not quite understand. Other than that, I will talk to you guys first thing in the morning from Bumgard Weather Center at around 5 a.m. I'll give you the forecast for the week and for the start of our work week on Monday. You can hear my forecast on 95.3 KDKD, 104.9 The Biz. You can hear it all throughout West Central Missouri on 95.3 KDKD. You'll hear my forecast a couple times an hour. And who knows, sometimes you even hear me on the radio, on live radio, Subby on live radio. Oh, my goodness. We have a ball sometimes in the morning. And again, want a big shout out to our sponsors of SkyTrack Weather to help make this possible. Benware Auto and Tractor, man, these guys, I've worked for them. Good people. And of course, our newest one, Clint Bar and Grill in Calhoun. If you guys haven't tried their tenderloin, you got to try it. And then, of course, Gary's Towing, longtime supporter of Subby's Weather Talk. Big thanks to Amanda and the gang over there at Gary's Towing. So for the LRC 2025-2026 winter forecast. I'm going to leave you guys tonight with hopefully a Kansas City Chiefs victory. Have a great night, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon.